Dansoa Osei. Thank you so much for your time, for giving your time to come to share your story about being a Weidenfeld Hoffman scholar. But if you would like to introduce yourself to us, thank you.
First of all, let me just say thank you so much for this platform and opportunity to speak to students and any young person who wants to embark on this journey abroad to study either undergraduate or even master's program or PhD outside of Ghana. I don't think it's a very straightforward process or it's a very easy process, but
Mm.
then we are here to break it down today and also like to share our story and our journey and some of the things that we did to get to where we are. My name, as you said, remains Elizabeth Dansoa. I attended Agri Memorial. From there, I went to University of Ghana, read political science with philosophy, and then I worked in government. I worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers before I decided to finally um, add value to myself. So I decided to apply for the Masters of Public Policy program at the University of Oxford. I completed in last year, graduated November 2025, and I'm currently working with the UK government in education because that was sort of what I kind of specialized when I went to Oxford. Thank you.
Hey, such a holistic background. As I said, very inspiring.
Thank
Um, so if you would like to tell us a bit about um what Weidenfeld Hoffman scholarship is about, because I think not many people know about it. And yeah, just to introduce the scholarship to us.
Thank you very much. So the scholarship's full name is Weidenfeld Hoffman Scholarship and Leadership Program. So it has a leadership program attached to the scholarship. It's not like the normal scholarships that gives you tuition and stipends for you to go to school, but then it has a leadership component, which also compelled me to, apply for the program. So this scholarship is tenable only in Oxford, unfortunately. You cannot find it or get it in any of the UK institutions, just the University of Oxford. And it's for students from emerging countries, students from developing countries, and to some specific programs or courses in Oxford. So with time, I would like delve into it and list some of these eligible courses and also countries people can apply for this program. But yeah, that is it in brief.
Mm. So you mentioned what program did you study in Oxford, and as you said, we'll get into it, but I think it has come soon. What programs are eligible for this scholarship? Is it all the programs Oxford offer, both bachelor's and master's, or there are specific programs that this scholarship covers? And what program did you also study in Oxford?
Okay, thank you. So I read the Masters of Public Policy, which is popularly known as the MPP, and it was at the Blavatnik School of Government. And this scholarship, it's mostly for, as I said, students from emerging countries and developing countries, all the low-income
Yeah.
countries who cannot help students come to Oxford are eligible
Mhm.
to apply for this. So any student or anyone from the Commonwealth, which Ghana is part of, which Nigeria is part of, you can apply for this funding. So don't even think that funding or let's say finances can be a barrier for you to come into Oxford because there are so many opportunities at Weidenfeld Hoffman for you.
That's nice. So, is this a fully funded scholarship? And as you mentioned, they have a leadership component. So, um is it given in tandem or in parallel with your studies, or you finish your studies then you do the leadership program, or how is it like?
Thank you very much. So this is actually a fully funded scholarship. It covers 100% of your tuition cost. It covers your living cost, which we call the stipend. And I think this year they are giving them about 20,000, which is sustainable. And I think if you have this money, you'll be okay. It also sometimes gives you money for your visa and then your health insurance. Because in the UK, before you apply for visas, you have to apply for health insurance. And during my time, the scholarship actually gave me money for this. Aside all these nice specs, we also have other travel grants and conference grants and even research grants that you can apply for. So you see, it offers so much support to students in there, to its scholars actually, involve themselves in academics, leadership, and also other, research programs if they want to. If they want to travel for conferences outside the UK, there is money for that as well. You spoke about the leadership, or you asked about the leadership. Yeah, so they have curated a program in such a way that the leadership is infused in the 1 year academic program. So I think during my time, we actually started some components of the leadership program before our program began, or before our courses actually started. So we had a 2 weeks leadership boot camp, which we spoke about issues around the moral philosophy, the seminars, and also the business, ideas that we wanted to actually implement during our time there. And then during some of the weekends too, they would infuse some of the leadership components in there. So it was like a holistic part of our whole 1 year at the University of Oxford. We didn't have to wait to complete before we actually had the leadership. And it was actually a very good thing, because then it sort of gave us the right skills at the right time. It taught us, the right values at the right time. Because for me, I read the MPP, and at a point I did a course called philosophy. But before I had done that philosophy course, I had already had like received moral philosophy training from my scholarship, which made that philosophy and program that I took, or the course that I took, very, very, easy for me to understand, easy for me to get. So like there are so many benefits in there.
Mm,
But it's very, very rigorous and intensive,
yeah.
I must say.
As I would expect from Oxford University. But I'm sure it
Yeah.
has done well for a personal and professional development as well. Could you tell us about the eligibility requirements um, to qualify for this scholarship or to even apply for it?
So to apply or to be eligible for this scholarship, you have to have good academic standing. First of all, let me say that before you even apply for this funding, you have to have already applied for the program at Oxford. So you apply for this scholarship when you are submitting your application for Oxford. And you only get like an invitation for, interview when Oxford gives you admission. And before you get into Oxford itself, you have to have strong academic standing. That automatically means that the scholarship requires that. And because Oxford has already given you admission before being invited for interviews or before they review your application, they do not really dwell so much on the academics, because they feel that you already have it for you to have gotten the admission. So what they look out for, honestly, will be your leadership and your commitment to public service. Those things really, really matter. And the scholarship aims to, support students from emerging and developing countries. So you need to be someone from those countries that are listed. And you should not be able to support yourself to Oxford without the funding. That means that has to be very clear in the application that you put across. And we also have some courses that are eligible for this, scholarship. So there's not all the courses in Oxford that you can get in. Because initially they used to fund, I think, 2 years MPhil programs, but now they've stopped. So for courses like the BCL, the MBA, MPP, my course, computer science, African studies, comparative social policy, economics for development. Those courses are courses that you can apply for with the scholarship. I'll send you the link later to our scholarship website so that people can, have a bit more details to like the nitty gritties and the things like they need to know. And also, you have to be applying for like a full time graduate program in Oxford. It shouldn't be a part time program, it should be a full time graduate program. And you should be intending to go back to your home country. It's one of the requirements, but it is not something that is strictly force people. So, like for instance, if you find a job in the UK or elsewhere, you can decide to take that. They do not force you to go back home, as other scholarships like Chevening and Commonwealth, does to its student. And also, you must be able to like demonstrate that the course you are coming to read is in tandem with your long-term career plans. That is one big thing that they actually look out for in your application. And another eligibility criteria will be that it is not open to students who have deferred. So if you have deferred from this year, you cannot use that to apply for the scholarship for next year. I think that is basically it.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So you were, from my understanding, it seems um you apply to the scholarship when you apply to Oxford. So is it that you just
Yeah.
take that, oh, I want to be considered for this scholarship, or you actually have to write some essays and attach to your application to Oxford? How does that work?
Okay. Thank you, and sorry for not adding that.
Well, that's
So,
okay.
with your application to Oxford, it differs by program. So, for my MPP, I attach the transcript, my personal statements, my references, my academic essays, my policy briefs, and my CV. And then there is a portal, or like there's a section in the portal which you have like other scholarships that if you want to be considered for, you need to go in there and fill the form or write a scholarship application. And there was a Biden for Hoffman. So if you want to be considered for WHT, there is a scholarship essay form that you have to fill. And in there, they ask you questions about why you want the scholarship, your career objectives, why you think the leadership program is best fit for you, what kind of ethical values you have, how is the business seminar going to like help your course, like those questions. But before the selectors even go in to read your scholarship essay, they would have read your entire Oxford application. So
Okay.
you have to make sure that your story is
Mm,
very coherent.
mm,
Very, very coherent. Because if you gain admission, the first thing they do is to first of all read your application to understand who you are before they go in to read your scholarship essay and see if there is a match between what you are
mm,
saying in your application and what you're saying in your scholarship essay. So, like
okay.
that coherence has to be there. You cannot be talking
Mm,
about climate change in your application and your scholarship. You are talking about education or
yeah.
some different
Yeah.
thing. There
Yeah.
has to be some sort of coherence. Yeah.
Okay. So thankfully, you don't need to attach more documents for the scholarship application. It's
Yeah.
just the scholarship
Yeah.
form.
Just
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
So can you like take us through the timeline? When did you apply? Um, when did you hear back from them? And then was there an interview? And when did school start? Or just through the timeline of the whole process? Yeah.
Okay. So I'll say the timeline is not like pretty structured because, as I said, you apply for the scholarship when you're applying for your course of study or for your program. And mind you, my application deadline was in December. But there are other programs that has application deadlines in January or even late February. So you have to know when your course is actually ending. And that is a time that you have to apply for the scholarship as well. And you also have to know that we have like two deadline streams in Oxford, the first and the second. So the first one happens in December, January, and the second one is the March deadline. If you want to be considered for WHT scholarship, you have to aim for the December or the January deadline. Other than that, you are not going to be considered for the scholarship. So after you have submitted your application, shortlisting begins around like February. They go through your documents, your Oxford documents, and the scholarship. And then interviews begin around March. And after the interviews, I think you have between April and May to hear back from them. So by May, if you've not heard back from them, then it means that
Yeah.
unfortunately you are not successful with the application. And another thing is that if Oxford doesn't give you an offer at all, if they bounce you, you're not going to hear from the scholarship. It is only when Oxford gives you admission that you'll be considered, and then you go through this timeline that I've stated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Then classes, if you are accepted, that's
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
classes will
So
begin
if you're
like
accepted by me, you'll be so happy. Oh my God. I remember my child was so
I can
excited.
imagine. Oh,
Yeah. But like officially, Makeomas, which is like the beginning of the first term, is in October 20. Okay,
oh,
depending on the year that you are coming. Yeah. But you see, I mentioned early on that my scholarship had activities even before we started our academic like programs or courses. So I went to Oxford on the 24th of September because my leadership camp or boot camp was for 2 weeks. So we did that for the first the later part of September before I was actually ushered into my main Oxford program, which began in October. So you should be aiming to go to Oxford if you're on the WHC scholarship somewhere mid-September. But then the timelines can change. Yeah,
mm. Always check the website just to stay up to date. Yeah.
exactly.
So you mentioned about the interview. Can you take us through how was it like? How many people were on the panel? What kind of questions did they ask? Yeah, how was the whole vibe of the interview?
Okay, so with the interview, oh my God, I wouldn't say it was difficult. It wasn't difficult. It was very, very chilled. I think on my panel were just two people, like the director and then my moral philosophy seminar leader. But then other people have had like different people on their interview panel. So going into that interview, I didn't try to sound perfect or even use like fancy buzzwords. I just went straight to the point because I wanted them to know why I think that I needed the scholarship. So my questions were pretty straightforward. Why did you choose Oxford? Why do you think this scholarship is best fit for you? Why should we consider you amongst all other people? What is your career plan? How is this scholarship going to help you achieve that career objective? And they also asked me questions around ethical questions around the moral philosophy and also the business seminars that we were going to have. So it was centered around that. So I tried to, be smart around those questions and prepare way ahead of time for these questions. And also, what they want to assess is your ability to think on your feet. Like as an Oxford scholar, you should be able to like think on your feet immediately and quickly. So they try to assess those kind of skills during the interview. But I don't think it's a very big deal. You just like have to be prepared. You just go in there to talk about the things that you stand for, the things that you care about, the things you want to change, the impacts that you want to have in a very honest way. And honestly, they see through it. They will see through you immediately if you're being honest or if you're just, saying anything just to get a scholarship.
So that gives a nice overview of what to expect if you make it through. For those of you who are planning to apply. I think just some miscellaneous questions on the scholarship. Is it only for first class students or is there an age limit? And
So there is no age limit actually. When I had a scholarship, I was 24 years. But I remember that in my cohorts, there were people who were like 29, some in their early and late 30s. I don't know if there was someone who was 40, but then in my class, like on the MPP, there were people who were 40 and even like 50, I think so. So like there is no age limit at all. And the scholarship is not only for first class students. I mean, of course, like Oxford is extremely competitive. So having like strong academics really, really helps you and speaks volume for you even before like they go and read your personal statement and those things. But as I said, before you are being considered for the scholarship, you should have gotten admission to Oxford. So after that, they don't really look at their academics. You just have to show them that you are much more than your grades. So they are interested in your leadership, your morals, and even your potential to be able to like contribute to public service. So a first class degree, I would say, won't necessarily get you the scholarship, and not having one will not also automatically exclude you. What matters most is that you are telling your story well, the kind of things that you've done, the kind of impacts that you've made in society, and the plans that you have going forward. So grades matter because Oxford is Oxford.
So, in your scholarship form, when you were writing the scholarship essays, how did you go about it? How did you demonstrate your impact? How did you tell your story and what you're passionate about? Because I'm sure they read many, many scholarship essays, but what do you think made yours stand out?
Just go straight to the point. You see, just go straight to the point. That is not the time that you have to write fancy and buzzwords. You see, they select, I think, 30 people out of the many brilliant people who received offers to Oxford. And if I'm being honest, what stood out for me would be the fact that maybe I think I had a clear purpose and I showed that in my application. I just wanted to show them the things that I've done, the things that I'm passionate about, the things that I care about, give them numerous examples on leadership initiatives that I've taken, on projects that I've worked on at my workplace, in voluntary services and all that, and how that links to what I want to do ultimately, like in the future. So just be honest about those things and show evidence of the things that you've already done because that is what they need, not their stories. Because I review people's personal statements and people start telling so many stories and I'm like, no, that is not really what they're interested in nowadays.
Hmm.
You really have to structure your essays very well. And something I also tell people that you have to like let people review it. Let people review it, but then don't let so many people review it so that it doesn't sound inauthentic at the end. Because the more people review your essays, the more you begin to lose your own voice. So start early and get help from people who have already gone through this process so that they can advise you on what to put in there, what to remove, and how to structure it. Because I think for me, initially, I also had like a challenge. I had done so many things that I wanted to say almost everything. So I got an advice from someone, and I think it really worked for me that see, put some of the things that you've done on your CV, put some in your personal statement, put some in your policy briefs, and even let your referees talk about some of them. So, like, the more they read your application, if they read your CV, they come to your personal statement and they are surprised because they've seen some great thing that you've done somewhere. They go and read your references and they're like, hey, she has also done this. Do you get it? So, like, I think this thing is a strategy. You have to like
Read it
know
out.
what to place, yeah, what to place what at what point in
Mm,
time in order to sort of wow them and for them to get the whole picture of the person that you are. I think if
mm,
you do that, it becomes very easy for you to stand out
yeah,
because not
yeah,
everybody will do it. Yeah.
that's true. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's a gem. I also take that advice.
Yeah.
So I think we are coming to the end of the session. I'm a bit sad because I'm learning so much. But
Uh,
what advice do you have for people who want to apply for this year's cycle of the Weidenfeld Hoffman scholarship?
my biggest advice would be that start early, especially with the essays. If you want me to review application, you cannot come a day before the deadline or like a week before the deadline. Because see, so many people will come to you for you to like review the applications.
Mm,
So if you really want to get the best out of whoever is going to help you, prepare early. Most applications will begin in September. So this is a time that you have to start putting things together. Your
mm,
thoughts, your CV, your personal statement. So that like somewhere I guess you can start bombarding people with, can you please review it for me? So that they
mm,
can also have like at least a month to do a proper work for you. So give yourself time, I would say, to sort of reflect on the things that you've done, who you really are, and how you're going to write your story. But then don't rush it at all. Don't rush it. And also, as I mentioned earlier on, try to get feedback from people because you are not a repository of knowledge. You do not know it all. You have to consult people who have already been in your position before. But then again, do not consult so many people because in the end, we want to see you, not other people. That is why if you come to me and tell me, Elizabeth, Dansoa, can you please send me your personal statement? I will not send you my personal statement because my story is not your story. Your story is not my story. A way, bruh, it's different. So you have to be you, and you have to also encourage people to be themselves anytime they come to you.
Mm,
And I would also say just be specific. Like go straight to the point. They are reviewing so many applications. So if you start telling them how you are poor and how you need scholar, no. Start by telling them why you, the things that you've done, those things, why you need the funding, because you've done A, B, C, D, da, 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 and without the funding, you may not be able to do this, that. Mention those things because like vague statements will not land well. It will not take you anywhere. They will just throw your application away. So, for instance, instead of like saying that you are passionate about education or climate change, show them some of the things that you've done in education and in climate change. That is what will tell them how passionate you are. You do not even have to say, I am passionate. If you begin to tell them, they know that this
mm,
lady is passionate. And
yeah.
also, just be specific because you see, specificity makes your story memorable. There is no way if you are unique to yourself and you tell your story as it is, people will forget it. That is why it's very, very bad for you to like copy personal statements from people. Because the moment they begin to read, they'll be like, last year we read something like this. So last 2 years we read something like this. So. But if it is genuine and it is fresh, they will remember it. And if they are trying to decide between who to pick, they would always remember your story and they'll go in for you. So that would be my
Wow.
one advice to people who want
Thank
to
you so
apply.
much. Thank you so much for telling your story and for showing us how you went through the process of winning this scholarship. I know it may have not been easy because it's advisable not to apply to only
At
one.
all.
So I'm sure there were many eggs in your basket. I really relate to your story of starting early. And also my advice would be don't just apply to one scholarship. Apply to as many as you possibly can
That's true.
and
That's
give your
true.
best to all of them. It's hard, but we have to bend the midnight
Exactly.
candle. Yeah. Yeah, so thank
Exactly.
you so much, Elizabeth Dansoa Osei, for giving us your time and for sharing your story and for showing us the way of how to apply for this scholarship. I hope those who are watching will take notes and then give their best for this round.